Let's talk about your author brand, what that means, what you need to know, how to make one for your own, etc. Because I feel like this type of stuff is especially important, particularly for nonfiction authors, because if you're writing a nonfiction book, there is a lot that you can do beyond the book. There's a whole other experience or feel that you can offer beyond the book, and that is what is known as your author brand. So I'm super excited to get into this because I find it really super fun to talk about, and it also benefits a lot of other people, including yourself. So without further ado, let's just keep this intro short and dive right into it. An author brand just boils down to three things: your mission/values, your message, and how you choose to communicate that message. At first glance, I hope that you can get a little bit of a taste of what my brand is like. You're gonna see that I have this like dark orangey, kind of rusty kind of color. I've got that shade of pink back there. I've got my books on my wall. I have a little bit of the blue and the pillow right behind that one. So right off the bat, you can kind of get a feel for the sort of vibe that I'm going for, whether it's in this video or on my website. I choose dark, warm colors to show that I'm grounded, that I'm secure, but I also like to do these lighter bluish, pinkish colors in the back to show that I can be lighthearted, I can be fun. But usually in these videos, I tend to keep things a little bit more serious, but if you check me out on Instagram, that's like a whole other kind of personality side of things you get with her. But more importantly, I'm more interested in helping you figure out yours. So let's go ahead and get into the first point, which is going to be getting clear on that first piece that I mentioned, your values/mission. So identifying what your why is going to be the foundation of everything that you do. And in times of chaos, if you're getting stuff thrown out of left field, if you want to do all these new projects, your values or your mission is a really good way to ground yourself. Meaning, what is your why? Why is it that you do whatever it is that you do? Why do you want to do what you want to do in the future? What is your mission statement going to be as a communicator? Because if you're going to be an author, or if you are an author, either way, you're a writer, and writers communicate ideas, perspectives, and solutions. And this can be different from what your business is. If you are a business owner, if you are an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, your identity as a person it's okay for that to be separate from what your identity is like as a brand, as the service that you provide or the product that you provide. So sometimes if you go to a business website, it's going to have a completely different feel than the person behind it. So an example of this is my book sales page, and I'm just using myself as an example. My book sales page is all about my book, The Finer Things Club. And right away, you can tell that there's a whole kind of vibe to this. There's like dark browns, there's yellows because it's representative of Yellowstone. And those are very prominent colors in Yellowstone, which is where my book takes place, versus my website. It's a little bit more lighter. It's got a different feel to it. So my brand as Lauren Erickson is different than my book's brand. My book, I'm just treating my book as my business because it kind of is. But substitute out my book page for your website page. You're going to have two different identities going on, and that's okay. So what is yours going to look like? Usually it's the values that is behind your mission. So why is it that you're doing what you do? Which is a really nice transition into my next point, which is determining your values. I happen to have 5. Authenticity, balance, communication, dependability, and simplicity. Those are the 5 qualities that matter the most to me. They're the 5 qualities that I feel like I've learned the most about in my own life through personal experience, through trials and errors, through triumphs, through challenges. I feel like those are the 5 words that I've learned a lot about, and I feel like I embody pretty well. So those are my values, just as an example. So what you can do is I'm going to pop up this list from Brene Brown, our good friend Brene Brown, where she's got a whole comprehensive list of tons and tons and tons of single words that can act as your values. So my challenge to you is pick out between 3 and 5 values or words on her page that most symbolize you. And if you're going to do this right, seriously take some time to think about it. Why are you choosing that specific word? What story do you have with that? What relationship do you have with that word? What kind of history do you have with that word? What have you learned about that word? Why are you choosing the words that you're choosing? And the more intentional that you are about it, the more it's going to represent who you are in a very, very natural way. And it's going to make you feel like super self-aware, which is always a bonus. And these values inform what you're going to say, which brings me quite nicely into my second point, which is determining your message. Now, there's 3 ways I'm going to list that can help you determine what your message is. The first one is, what do you really want to say? Think of this as a prompt from me to you. If we're going out for a drink or having coffee or meeting up at a bookstore or at a Panera or wherever you want to meet, wherever you want to hang out, if I asked you that question, hey, what is it that you really want to say? What would you respond with? The second way to determine what your message is to ask yourself, what is it that no one talks about? I do a lot of what I do, which is educating people on the publishing process, the culture, the business of books. That's my jam. I love talking about it because no one else really talks about it. I don't know of really anyone who is willing to teach people about book publishing, not just the process, but also the culture of it, the business of it, etc. I feel like I'm kind of the only one who's doing that right now that I know of. If anyone else is out there who does that, please reach out to me. But in the meantime, that's the prompt that I lean on to help me determine what it is that I'm going to talk about. And the third way to determine your message is the question of what existing work that you're already knowledgeable of would you like to expand upon? So let's say that you're really into self-help. Just as an example, you've read between 5 and 10 different self-help books. There's an aspect or a common thing within all of those books that you would really, really wish people would expand on more when they're talking or writing about self-help. So if that were you, what would that be? Taking that little nugget of a thing and stretching it out. Teach yourself about it. Seek out more books, podcasts about it. Seek out articles or interviews. What is it that people are saying about this, and how would you expand it in your own words and in your own way? Now, the thing that you need to think about with your message and determining your message is also thinking about how it's going to benefit others. What will others gain, experience, or take away from your message? What is like the golden nugget of knowledge that you want them to walk away with and benefit from for the next X many months or years? And the last part of determining your author brand is figuring out how you want to communicate that message. And I feel like this is kind of what piece almost becomes the signature for a lot of people, because think about it. Think about how many different renditions or versions there are of Cinderella. But you know that you have a favorite one. Is it the original? Is it one of those renditions? Why? It's probably got something about the way that it's interpreted, right? I'm a millennial, so I happen to think Hilary Duff slays in a Cinderella story. For me, that's my favorite. That's what I like. There are going to be millions of people in the world that want to say the same thing as you, and that's okay. And what's going to help differentiate you from the crowd is how you're willing to tell that story, or how you're willing to communicate that message, which might require some innovation. Maybe it's getting personal. Maybe it's the way that you teach people about what you know. Maybe it's about the way that you tell stories. I don't know. This is what's going to determine how sticky your message is, because if you're talking about it in a very compelling way, you're going to have a lot of people hooked. So when I'm talking about your message's stickiness, I'm talking about what's going to make it memorable. And I feel like writing a well-written book with quality content, you're providing a lot of value. I feel like that doesn't always get the recognition that it deserves, because I feel like a lot of people out there write books just for the sake of writing books, to say that they're an author or to sell something bigger or to use it as a marketing tool. And I'm not knocking that. Everyone's got their thing. But for me personally, as a consumer, anything from anyone that I listen to, any new perspective or idea or solution, etc., that I'm getting from another person, I don't care what it is, because I'm going to be involved and curious and interested in it as long as it's told well. So that's what you have to determine, is what is going to make your delivery sticky? What's going to be the unique thing that really makes your message worth remembering, not just listening to, but also remembering. And often that requires a degree of vulnerability, because only you know how to be you, and there's only ever going to be one you. So you might as well try to sprinkle a little bit of that within your message, right? Because no one can be you, only you know how to do that. Do with that what you will. But moving on to my other points that I want to talk about. So here's where we're really going to get into it. I'm going to show you how to come up with your own branding. And what I mean by that is taking everything that you've thought about so far, about your values/mission, about your message, as well as about how to communicate that message, taking all of that. You want to represent that visually. You want to just kind of package it up all super nice and neatly and make it look really pretty to look at, because people like looking at pretty things. So I'm going to show you how to do that. If you have access to Pinterest, whatever quality or value you want to be associated with, plug that into Instagram and put aesthetic after it. Honestly, plug in your values and then aesthetic. See what comes up, see what you resonate with. So I'm going to show you an example of mine. This is my quote mood board. These are all pictures that I really like, that I feel like look like me, that feel like me, that represent my values. There's some of that groundedness with some of the light and airiness, and I feel like that's kind of the sort of vibe that best reflects me and what my values are, what my mission is. If you're already an avid Pinterest user, you can just kind of go off of previous pins that you've liked or that you've interacted with. But either way, have some fun kind of looking around and put it all into this mood board right here. And this is what you're going to use when you hop over to Canva and you start putting together your little brand board. So once you get a few items together, you might just want to pick out some of your favorites. And then I compiled all of mine into my own brand board, which I'm going to pull up for you. This is my brand board, as you can see right here. I have like classic capitalized font with like a softer, rounder sort of sub font underneath that. I've also pulled out some of the main colors that you can see in a lot of these pictures down here, so I plugged in both for inspiration. There was a lot of browns and warm colors, so I plugged that in. There were a lot of blues, so I plugged that in. There were some pinks and off-whites, so I plugged that in. And how you can make one of these is by going into Canva. If you haven't used Canva before, then you're gonna learn today. It's really great. I love it. It's super easy. They have a million templates that you can pick from. So all I did was you go up here and you just type in brand board right here, as you can see. And these are all the templates that it's gonna pull up for me. So I just picked, honestly, I think this was the one that I picked right here, this Olivia Wilson fashion blogger. You can always change what they have, but I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. And what you can do is once you kind of find some pictures that are representative of yourself on Pinterest, to find those exact colors just to give you a starting point, click on one of the little default color swatches, click on this little color icon up here, and then you're gonna click on this little eyedropper tool. And then you're gonna hover that over some colors that you particularly want to highlight. So if I'm just going to do this blue color, that's like the sky with the hands raised, click on that, and it's going to pop up on this screen. And it's going to give you that exact hex number. And a hex number is basically like a color's thumbprint. It's like the ISBN number of a book. It's the unique identifier for that particular color. Every single color is going to have a hex number. Don't let that freak you out. It's no different than sky blue, but like the more technical version of it. And then honestly, for the font, I just kind of picked out what I thought was pretty. You have like the Laura font that I have over here. I picked that out because it's professional. I wanted to symbolize that I had this clean, professional image with kind of like the softness that comes in my presentation. And I chose to represent that with my fonts in addition to my colors. So the Laura is stronger, the Montserrat is a little bit softer and more communicative, I think. So there is a degree of intuition that kind of comes along with determining your brand. Either way, I hope you got something out of this video, because putting a brand to your name is going to help make you more A, professional, but also B, more identifiable, and C, people who resonate with the kind of look that you have going on. You're going to attract the people that you want to attract, because you're saying, hey, this is who I am. This is how I'm choosing to represent myself. If you want to come, if you're curious, if you want to learn a little something, come on in. Let's have a conversation. Let's get a connection going. And then you're going to meet other people that maybe share those similar values because they resonate with what your brand image is. So really, really think about what it is that makes you unique, because that's kind of the foundation of this entire thing. With that being said, I hope you found this helpful. If you want to learn a little bit more about this kind of stuff, I also have a Substack where I talk about very similar content, and you can find that at laurenerickson.substack.com. I'm also a little more looser and casual and playful on Instagram, and my handle is Lauren Erickson, but the O in my last name is a 0. Otherwise, that's all I have. Good luck. Reach out to me if you have any questions, and if you have any other ideas for other videos you want me to talk about, leave a comment below. I appreciate you. Have a good one.